Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right, this is episode 154. And in our lineup tonight, we have the Bruichladdich. Is it Islay?
2013 Islay Barley.
Okay, 2013 Islay Barley. 2013?
2013.
All right. And then from there, we have our shout-outs and get-togethers, followed by our restaurant review, being, I forget where we went.
BJ's Restaurant for the 5-course Irish beer dinner pairing.
And here Jesse's carrying the intro. And lastly, our smarter challenge is the movie review of Tenet. Basically because the director's release kind of came out in the theaters recently, right?
Yes, re-release with supposedly an extra 6 minutes of presentation, which I couldn't fucking see at all.
All right, before we jump in totally, a quick shout out to our listeners and watchers on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you to all of you who watch us on those two platforms and that subscribe. We greatly appreciate all of you, as well as all the many listeners on the very many different audio platforms that you can listen to us as well. We appreciate all of you. And with that, let's get ready to be introduced to this new Bruichladdich expression.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right, the Bruichladdich 2013 Islay Barley. Well, quick basic re-review of some of their history. The Bruichladdich distillery was built in 1881 by the three brothers Harvey brothers, including William, John, and Robert. So 32, 31, and 23. So mom and dad had one, had another, and then decided to at least wait 8 years before having the third on the shore of Loch Indal on the Rins of Islay. So in other words, it is a westernmost part of Ireland, Islay, where the Bruichladdich distillery was established, built, and they created quite a history. The uniquely tall and narrow-necked stills, not quite as tall or narrow as Glenmorangie, were purchased by a group of private investors, and they create a very pure spirit. Bottom line is, man, you've seen us have some of the great history with this distillery. We had the Octomore 14.1 recently. You've seen the Bruichladdich, the classic laddie, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, Jim Ewan, who has worked at Bowmore Distillery since the age of 15, was hired as the master distiller and production director in the year 2000. Between January and May of 2001, the whole distillery was dismantled and reassembled with the original Victorian decor and equipment retained. I guess it was a deep cleaning, so to speak, like an anal cleanse or something, who knows. Having escaped a modernization, most of the original Harvey machinery is still in use today. No computers are used in production, with all of the processes controlled by a pool of skilled artisans who pass on information orally. I like the thought of that. And largely measure progress using dipsticks and simple flotation devices. This is a man's dream. I'm just saying.
So far, this is what I got. Taint, ass,
dipstick, oral.
Dipstick, and oral.
Yeah.
Is that what the kids are calling it nowadays?
On the 23rd of July, 2012, it was announced that Remy Cointreau reached an agreement with the Bruichladdich to buy the distillery for a sum of £58 million. So in other words, it's part of the Remy Cointreau establishment.
So Remy Martin and Cointreau.
Dude, I'm just saying. Anal, dipstick, I'm all in. Let's go.
Taint, anal, dipstick, oral.
So you took it in a different sense, but I went from the opposites. Oral, dipstick. You're like, taint? I'm like, wait a minute.
Didn't that know what you said was taint?
No!
What did you say it was?
I said that they dismantled and remantled, if you will. Dismantled and reconstructed or remantled the whole establishment.
So where did I get taint from?
I imagine you were thinking about someone else. Madam Webb.
Hey, Sydney Sweeney did look pretty hot in that
Oh,
movie.
dear God. And with that, what do you have for any potential distillery touring notes?
Well, if you could go with Sydney Sweeney.
You can go with the taint. The fuck?
Well, to do a quick recap, they have basically 4 type of things that you can do here. There's the guided distillery tour, which is 1.5 hours long, 15 Great British pounds. Basically, it's just a guided walking tour. Then they have the warehouse tasting where you are in the... there's no tour to this one, but you're going to sample 3 expressions from the cask in Warehouse 6. Then you have Bruichladdich Experience. This is the ultimate tour. You get the guided tour, learn how they make Bruichladdich, Port Charlotte, and Octomore, and the philosophies behind those scotches. In Warehouse 6, you'll do a tasting. That's 65 Great British pounds. That's 1.5 hours long. And then there's a core range tasting. Here you just learn about the history and the philosophy about making Bruichladdich, Port Charlotte, and the Octomore. It's only 10 Great British pounds, and it's about 45 minutes long. So I think if you want to really want a little bit more of an in-depth on those tours, you can just revisit one of our past episodes, but that's kind of like the real brief recap on those.
I think that is the point. That is the brief recap. And I love how you always emphasize, it's not that it's 10 pounds with Sydney Sweeney. It's 10 Great British pounds if you can go with Sydney Sweeney. Which she will never go on this tour with you.
Exactly.
We're only 10 pounds.
Great British pounds.
Or Great British pounds. Otherwise.
Hey, man. You got to give a shout out to that guy who just...
No, you don't. No. And with that, we are going to move on to the Bruichladdich
Hit that one in the butt.
2013.
You can't give that guy credit. Nope, not away.
Nope, you can give him credit, just not on public channels. Islay Barley 2013. All right. So at this point, this is a 10-year age Scotch. The Bruichladdich. And speaking of which, man, for my birthday, I bought myself a new laptop. It had been 18 years. I used this as a weight to hold the box as I was trying to take pictures. Fell right off the goddamn deck. I'm lucky the bottle didn't shatter, along with the canister. Fucking taking some serious heat. Bruichladdich, though, the two attest to the fact of the purpose of a canister. This thing took some serious damage, but protected the bottle. The canister is solid, strong. The bottle itself, the usual. Actually, this is slightly more advanced.
It looks pretty similar to the Port Charlotte.
Yeah, just got a little extra gold detail. I like the gold. Ooh, she like gold. But with the Bruichladdich 2013.
She ain't no gold digger.
Yeah, she ain't nothing but a gold digger. And
But she ain't doing no rope nick.
And as we unravel the very firm
I guess
oil.
we
And no.
we've been unraveling this whole
Noah had a Tropic Thunder beer and went full Tropic Thunder. Is how we're going to leave that. With that, all right, the bottle is a typical Bruichladdich bottle. And as we give a nice, generous pour, stuff's smelling pretty damn good.
Islay.
Allah!
Islay nailed it.
Oh, damn.
All right. Is it off to our
Off to the Scotch Review.
and cheers.
Cheers.
Warp speed. The Bruichladdich 2013 Islay Barley. A new expression for us to try here from the Bruichladdich distillery. I actually was pretty pleased with this. I like the presentation. I'm not sure what color you really call that. I'm going to say it's on the gray scale, but I'm not really sure if that's the color.
Pale straw.
Is that the color of the label
That's
in the
what
box?
I call it. Oh, the label? Yeah, it's the fucking dead skin.
I don't know. I'm going to call it gray. It's on the gray scale, but I'm not sure exactly what color it is.
It's kind of like a pale sea green.
Pale sea green. Okay. Anyways, I actually kind of like it. It's not that bad. Along with the gold color and stuff, I think it looks really nice because it actually matches. I think that gold matches the color of the Scotch itself. Mm-hmm. Plus, you put it to the test, and the actual canister helps protect the bottle.
Dude,
so
fucking one now.
So I gotta give that a 4 out of 5 because of that extra protection there. The color, I gave that a 5 out of 5. I put here as a light golden straw, a summer blonde, if you will, is like what I wrote here. And that's so that once again, that's a 5 out of 5. And for the nose, I actually thought the nose was decent. I put citrus with butter and floral notes and hints of brine, which I actually, I like brine, and who doesn't like butter and flowers and citrus? I mean, those are all areas that I like, and I don't think any of them are too offensive, but there is like a slight hint of some other note in there that makes you question what other notes that you might pick up in there, because it's not just those ones I mentioned there. There's one other note in there, and I can't pinpoint what it is really. But it wasn't, it adds a different twist to it. So I still liked it. I didn't find it offensive at all, but I gave it a 26 out of 30 points. The palate. I really enjoyed the palate. Here I had vanilla with honey, cereal, with hints of almond and nutmeg near the end, which gave me a nice, pleasant palate taste there, and it seemed like it was like somewhere between the light to medium bodied. And then when it goes to the finish, here on my finish, I got a toasted malt with vanilla and honey, which I really enjoyed that flavoring. So once again, the nose was 26, the palate was 27. I think that was a highlight. And then the finish, because of the toasted malt with vanilla and honey, I gave that a 26 as well. It gives me a grand total of 88, if my math is correct. And I actually enjoy this expression. Now, is it one that I would drink every day? No, but it is a nice kind of like a sweet, refreshing twist to some of the other scotches that are out there. Does it have a place on your shelf? Possibly, but I think, and when I say possibly, it just depends on what you're looking for. But honestly, I would go with some other expressions from Bruichladdich, and I have those on my shelf. For instance, like the Octomore, I definitely would go with that. And then Port Charlotte, that most definitely. I liked Port Charlotte a lot. I believe we did one other one from them.
The Classic Laddie.
Classic Laddie, but then we did another one, I think. I thought we did one more. But in any case, I think there's some other expressions that I liked more than this one in particular. I'm not sure what the price point is on this one, but
right around $90.
Right around 90. So I think around that $90 frame, like I said, I probably would choose some other options. So maybe you wouldn't have a place on my shelf. Would I take it to game night? Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more expensive than I would want to spend on a game night, especially if it's with friends who don't appreciate Scotch. But if there are friends who appreciate Scotch, I think this would be a nice addition to a game night. As far as a black tie affair, I probably wouldn't take this to a black tie affair. I would if I was going to take anything from the Bruichladdich lineup, it would have to be the Octomores after trying the Octomore.
God, nothing compares.
There's hands down, you can't like. After you try the Bruichladdich Octomore, you can't go back, and those are going to be the ones that you're going to take to black tie affairs.
Black, you can't go back.
That's what they say. That is to say, once you go black, you don't go back.
Once you go Bruichladdich 14.1, you can't go back. Bastards made the canister black. Really?
So in any case, yeah, I really enjoyed this expression from them. But once again, I think just because of some of the other expressions they have, it's not. It's something that you know. I think it has a quality you expect from them, and it is a nice expression. But I just would rather maybe drink the Port Charlotte or the Octomore a little bit more than this one.
All right. Well, the Bruichladdich 2013, the Islay Barley. First of all, I forgot to mention, this is a 50% ABV. So we're talking about 100 proof Scotch, which is pretty impressive. I don't taste it at all. I don't smell it at all. And it is obviously a Scotch that is, they harvest all of their barley from Islay. They use 7 different farms on the island of Islay to harvest or to get their barley to make this particular Scotch. So with that, it's pretty great. For me, man, the presentation, as Noah mentioned, I love the solid wood top. They also color paint it, whatever they do, silver, solid cork, the bottle, the label. For me, this is getting a 5. Here's why. I literally dropped this damn thing 6 feet off my deck. All I did was take some dents on the canister, one big one in particular, but the bottle remained. And here's the bottom line for all those bottles that anyone buys with not a canister that gone through anything even close, dropping 6 feet off a deck onto rocks, it'd be shattered and $100 misspent. So for me, the presentation is solid 5. The color, pale, straw, simple. Man, this is a summer dream. You're going to a nice beach, and there she is swimming in that teeny weeny string bikini. Light straw. Presentation and color, both 5s. The nose is what I cannot take from this damn Scotch. I do appreciate that there's a honey floral scent. The creamy vanilla I like. I don't know if it's the honeydew melon that I don't expect from the Scotch, but there is like kiwi and honeydew that's coming from the nose. A little bit of ripe pear. The slightest hint of oak, but ultimately for me, I am way different than you, Noah. For me, the nose, only getting a 22. Like the cereal's in there, but I'm not digging the cereal. So 22 on the nose. Palate. Now, palate is quite contrary to the nose. I get the vanilla, cereal, oak, a hint of porridge or rice pudding, some dry straw, pear, melon, and the teeniest little bit of orange. So for me, the palate gets a solid 28. It is a phenomenal palate for my scoring purposes, as not great as the nose or the finish is. So 28 on the palate. Finish. I love the salty sea breeze. That is the high point. Charred oak, creamy melon. I don't know what it is about this. The melon on the nose and the finish. For me, the finish is only getting a 25. My total score, a little bit lower than yours, only an 85. Would I take it to a black tie event? Fuck no. Would I take it to a game night? Classic Laddie 10 times out of 10? Fuck no. And because of that and the price point and everything else, it's not that it is not an interesting Scotch. It's just not for me. So it doesn't even have a place on my shelf. Like, I will take the classic Laddie. I'll pay 3 times as much to get an Octomore any day. Bruichladdich, this one was not for me. The Port Charlotte you mentioned, 5 times the Scotch that this one was for about the same price point. This was just for me, and you scored it higher than I. You probably liked it a lot more than I did. Fuck no for me. The nose and the finish are terrible. What's interesting is just how much I actually love the palate. A 22 on the nose versus a 28.
Why do these things don't belong?
I love the palate. I literally love the palate.
one of these scores don't belong.
That's just it. But once the palate fades, I don't want it again. Like, get it off my tongue. And so with that, for me, it's just a total of 85.
Yeah, I like it.
We know Noah will be drinking all night. I'll be going after some Talisker.
All right. Well, with that, there you go. We have 85 from Jesse, 88 from Noah. Now it's up to you guys. This one, like usually, I think we've been fairly close on most of ours recently.
This is the biggest difference we've had in a long time.
Yeah, it is. And so here, this is up to you all. Leave in the comments down below, like what you believe, like what you think if you try this one. Let us know if you side a little bit more with me or side a little bit more with Jesse, or you think we're just both crazy.
Just go for the Octomore. Don't waste your money on this to test it.
I think it's worthy of a try.
But you won't put it on your shelf and you won't take it to a black tie event.
No. Octomore is more the
Buy
black
the
tie event.
Octomore. Don't fucking waste your money.
Honestly, I think for the same price point, I'd say buy the Port Charlotte.
Even the Classic Laddie. I drank the shit out of a bottle of the Classic Laddie last week on vacation. This, I'll drink, but it's only for the palate. Like, the reason I'll keep drinking it is so I don't have to experience the finish or the nose.
It's time for our shout-outs.
Oh, man. My only one for the two. Biden, can you believe this shit? He's putting together a force, a task force, so to speak, to go after illegal corporate price hoarding. Where were you 3 years ago? Like, when inflation was 9%. Wait a minute. I think he did announce he was doing something like this 3 years ago. Nothing came of it. Now that it's an election year, he's doing it again. Get it together. Get the fuck out. That's it.
All right, so my shout out is going to go to Trump for the multiple wins today for Super Tuesday. Some of those results are coming in. They've already said that he's won 11 of the states so far. I'm not sure how many states are in Super Tuesday, but I do know that's probably the majority of them right there. I'm sure he's going to win all of them. The Get It Togethers. Real quickly, the one Get It Together, and I know I've been joking about this anyway throughout
Are you
this
going to go out to
episode.
the Denver mayor?
No.
Oh,
We've been joking about it a little bit on the show, and I've been talking about this guy. But there's a guy who went and saw Madam X, and because of one of the actresses,
don't do it, dude.
One of the actresses in the movie, the guy was caught publicly masturbating in a movie theater. So I'm going to put a Get It Together for that guy. You don't do that. You don't like masturbate in a public space in a movie theater. Put it in your spank bank. Go home. Maybe do some research. Find out whether or not there's like if that person's like posed nude in a movie or a TV series, and then spank it. Do it in the privacy of your own home. Don't do it in the public movie theater where kids and other people might see you. So that's my Get It Together right there.
I only want to create one tangent off of that. You cannot publicly not get caught masturbating. Like, you cannot privately masturbate in a public movie theater, for example. So he got caught publicly because he's an idiot. Don't do it.
I mean, I guess if you're going to do it publicly, just don't get caught, right? Not that you should be doing that in the first place, but
here's the bottom line. That means he had to have it out.
Yeah. Don't do that. But I guess if you're going to do that, don't get caught.
I'm going to keep it simple. That guy is less of a moron to me than Biden right now. And I'm curious how many people are buying into Biden's bullshit about a task force to go after corporate price gouging, so to speak.
All of that price gouging was caused by him in the first place because because of all of his poor political policies.
That's
to begin with.
Like, is anyone buying this crap at this time? Like, let me shovel the crap out. That's Biden. And I'm wondering who's... yeah, I'll eat that. I got cereal.
If he would have just done and followed what
3 years ago,
what Trump had already in place, our economy was doing well then. People were making money. We would not have had to worry about about so-called corporate price gouging and stuff like this.
Well, and furthermore, God damn it, we've gone off on a tangent, but I've got to finish now. Furthermore than that, he has failed in every aspect of any of that piece, which is...
So the next question is it done on purpose to destroy America?
Yes. And really, I actually don't want to go on that big of a tangent because that's a 45-minute subject. So, shame on you, Biden. BJ's Restaurant, and we found out because Noah did a little research and got us an exciting deal. They had a 5-course Irish dinner and beer pairing. This was pretty fantastic. So this year for 2024 in Denver, Colorado, at least, the 5-course meal was $45. Course 1, Smithwick's Irish Ale with a house wedge blue cheese dressing salad. Course 2, Sullivan's Malting Irish Ales with a spicy pig tavern cut pizza. The jalapenos were the spicy piece of that. Course 3, the Guinness Draught versus Guinness 0.0 alcohol free, and the Piranha Pale Ale Chili,
which they mentioned.
Guinness, yes,
yeah, they took out the Piranha Red or whatever and did it with the Guinness.
Yeah, so the Piranha Pale Ale was removed. The Guinness, well, they didn't say that was removed. What they did emphasize was that they added Guinness. So course 4, the Jeremiah Red with the New Orleans Jambalaya. And then they had their palate cleanser with the Guinness Extra Stout. Wrapping up with course 5, the Sullivan's Black Marble Nitro Stout and BJ's Hot Fudge Brownie Bizoki.
To begin with, I'll start with when you arrive there. They have the front door that faces faces the street front, so there's no parking where the front door is. So you either have to park on either side of the front door or the back side of the restaurant. I honestly don't really care for that kind of setup. And part of the parking lot, I believe, on both sides of the restaurant were kind of dark versus like the back area, which wasn't exactly well lit, but it was definitely more lit than the two sides. I don't know what it is, but I think it has to be something with Colorado and parking lots that they don't like to light the parking lots.
They've gone too liberal.
Maybe. But so here I'm going to give the outside a 6. The other problem I had with the outside of the building / maybe entering into the building is that they have the, what is it called? The rotary doors.
Yes.
And from what I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there was a big push, probably maybe 5, maybe 10 years ago, where they're putting these rotary doors in to save energy and keep it from places like losing heat or losing air conditioning and stuff like that. And so, but now they have these rotary doors shut down, and you have to use the normal doors. So it defeats the purpose. So I'm questioning why they have those doors around still. So that outside / area, then the door, I'm giving a 6. When you walk in, they have a front foyer area with a hostess. There's a little bit of seating area there, but you can also go to the bar and grab some drinks while you're waiting to get seated. I thought the inside, it's pretty like most BJ restaurants or bar and grills. Their interior is relatively the same, and so it's what you would expect from a major chain anyway. So the atmosphere and interior, because it's kind of like what you expect from a national chain, is not anything more than you expect, and really not anything less than what you'd expect. So it's middle of the road. So I'm gonna give that a 7. Now for the food / waiting. This is really hard to gauge because this was a special event, so I'm not really sure I can really give the food a fair, accurate rating as I would if we went there as individuals, not going to an event. I will rate the event fairly high. I'm going to give the event a 9 though, because the event itself, was they had music playing. Although they tried to make it tailor it to St. Patrick's Day. The decorations they had for the event was all about St. Patrick's Day. There was Irish beers, and it was kind of like they had some fun things going on. They had like some contests going on where like you had the patrons who were holding up like bowls of Lucky Charms, and instead of using milk, they used the 0% alcohol Guinness. And then they had two wait staff members eating it, and whichever wait staff member ate theirs first with one of the patrons holding the bowl, they won a prize, and they actually had other prizes there. And then they had this other event where they had patrons put shaving cream over the face of like two of the employees and throw Lucky Charms at them and try to make like a shaving cream beard. And that was kind of fun and entertaining. So I think the way they did their beer and food tasting was a lot of fun. The food itself, every round had like wonderful dishes. They weren't tiny dishes at all. Like actually, you probably could have eaten like maybe 2 of the rounds and like taken the rest of it all home. It's definitely a lot of food, and then when you combine it with all the beer, you definitely come away full. The wedge I thought was great. I'm not a very big fan of blue cheese. And usually when I do go to the BJ's bar and grill, I usually ask them to put ranch instead of the blue cheese. But I had the blue cheese on this one because that's the way it came, and it matched really well with the beer. So I was very pleased with that. The second round, which was the pizza, it tasted really well. It tasted good. The only thing I didn't like about it was that the crust wasn't as crispy as I would have liked. And I think they had like maybe a touch too much jalapenos on there. I think if they were just taking a little bit off of the jalapenos, it might have tasted better. The chili itself was great. The jambalaya, you made this point, is that they had chicken in it, maybe a little bit more chicken than some like seafood. So it probably wasn't, it could have been a little bit more on the traditional side for jambalaya, but it still had a nice flavor to it. And the pizookie, which is like the ice cream with the brownie, that tasted pretty good. The brownie part tasted good. I didn't eat most of the ice cream because I didn't really want to mix ice cream with my beer. And by that time I was pretty full too. So the food itself, I'm giving that. I thought the food there was done well. I'm giving that an 8. The way the wait staff handled everything in this event, they did a great job too. So that I'm going to give a 9. So I guess overall, I'd have to do my math here because I don't know what my average is. So an overall is 7.8. Would I take a date to BJ's? Yeah, I would.
Would I listen to this restaurant title and take a straight face?
Would I meet friends there? Yeah, I would. I would meet friends there. Overall, I think the restaurant is a good place. I used to go to the one in Westminster all the time, and go there for their Thursday night tri-tip steak dinner for $14.99, and then usually they had like a beer deals going on Thursday night. So I think the restaurant is a solid chain restaurant. So yeah, I would go there. I'd take a date there. I'd meet people there. So and like I said, overall it's a 7.8. Is it a destination? No, considering since I moved here in this area, I've only been to BJ's once, and that was for this event. So I'm going to say that this is not a destination point, but if it's in an area where I'm doing something, yes, I would go there.
5-course meal here at BJ's. So I have been there more frequently than Noah as of late. What I would say is, for me, environment, I agree. The fucking parking lot is dismal at best. We parked under like the one section of the parking lot that was well lit. Why? It's facing Sable. I believe it's Sable, which is a street with no parking, and therefore, what are they trying to do? Stop people from running out the door and running across the street and not paying their tab? Who knows? But the setup is poor, in my opinion, as well. So ultimately, the exterior environment is only a 6. It's not the worst we've seen. It's not great. The ambiance, the internal atmosphere is a 7. It's better. It's not phenomenal. They could have done a little bit more. The food, though, for me, was a solid 9. This 5-course meal, man, the house wedge salad, I love me some blue cheese. They had some great blue cheese. We still haven't figured out what was the 5-alarm fire after we left, but maybe it was the blue cheese. Followed by the spicy tavern cut pizza with the jalapenos. Dude, still great. Jalapenos could use a fewer. The chili, amazing. The jambalaya, great. Wish we would have had a little more seafood, a little less chicken. The fudge brownie pizookie, also great. All of the beers were well paired. So for me, ultimately, the food was a 9. The service was a 9. I don't know that I've ever actually had bad service there. Solid 9 around the boat. Because of those factors, value as far as what we walked out with 5 courses. 5 beers plus a palate cleanser, so ultimately 6, $45 plus tip. The value is a solid 9. Probably should have been a 10, but you add that up. So food 9, service 9, value 9. So you got 27, ambiance, a 7. So now you're looking at 30, 43 plus the environment, 640 divided by 5. You got a solid 8.0 from me as far as the score. Would I meet a date there? Take a date there? Absolutely. Would I meet friends there? Take a friend there? Absolutely. Is it a destination? Not at this point. It's just not that outstanding. For their event, yes, but I have been there 3 other times in the last few years that I can remember, probably even more than that. And every time I went, I was like, I don't need to be here again for another 6 to 12 months. This little experience they put on was a win. And if they put something like that on every day, it probably would be a destination for me. But knowing that this is something they do once every couple months, the restaurant itself is still not a destination, mostly because the goddamn parking lot. This was really meant to be a fun, simplistic, smarter challenge, a review of the re-release of the 2020 film Tenet by Chris Nolan, starring John David Washington and Robert Pattinson.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it really is just like, what did you really think? Like, I thought when the movie came out, it was phenomenal. When the movie was originally released, my understanding was 150 minutes. They said it was 6 minutes longer with this. I couldn't find more than the 6 minutes. I actually thought it was shorter. Like, I thought it wasn't as involved, but maybe that was part of the programming, if you will, the redistribution of time and frames as far as the film itself. But what did you think overall?
Well, I was going to say that you mentioned this was supposed to be simple. And right when I was about to interrupt you, I was about to say, is any Christopher Nolan movie all that simple? Because I don't really think most of them are. When you look at Inception or even like the Batman trilogy that he did, like there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in his movies that doesn't make them fun, yes. Entertaining, yes. Intellectually challenging, in some cases, yes. Stimulating. There you go. Stimulating. But as simple and fun, probably I would not. Those like putting those two together. I'm not actually sure I would use those two terms with Christopher Nolan movies.
Well, here's what's interesting. Chris Nolan, as you mentioned, did a three-peat, if you will, for Batman. He bows out, as does his star for those Batman movies. And who steps in? His star for this movie after he stopped doing those Batman movies. Robert Pattinson jumps in and takes the lead role.
I didn't even put that.
Meanwhile, Chris Nolan had bowed out, but Chris Nolan had absolutely indicted, if you will, Robert Pattinson into Tenet. And possibly Batman. Now, what I would say is, man, I loved all of the Chris Nolan Batman movies, but this most recent version, which Chris Nolan was not a part of, is at least not announced, but Robert Pattinson was. Right now, it is by far my favorite Batman movie. And that's hard because when you look at the Dark Knight, and oh man, Heath Ledger playing the Joker, some of those things are hard to beat. This most recent did for me. So when I say simple and lighthearted, I'm really saying I'm not trying to take anything away from Chris Nolan and his films. But for me, the point was I actually got less from revisiting it in the theater now than I have ever watching it on my own private TV.
Well, yeah, I would say I didn't. Obviously, I think I got less out of it seeing in the theater the second time around.
That's what I mean. It was weird.
Yeah, like there was some like I here's the biggest takeaway I got from like rewatching this movie in the theater is that we went to the Dolby theater, which has Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, and with some of the scenes in there, like it really made you like seat rumble and stuff like that, and that right there made it worth seeing it again in the theater. I think if you went to go see it in a regular theater where it didn't have that Dolby Atmos type of sound system where you could just feel it, I don't know if it would have been as great of an experience seeing it a second time, because like you can have like if you have like a 4K TV and you have the 4K version of Tenet, I think you're probably gonna get just as good of an experience, because like even with that, you
got the sound.
Yeah, because I think even with that, like some of these sound systems also use Dolby Atmos as well. So I think you can almost have just as good of an well, I won't say just as good, but you can have a fairly good experience at home watching it as well. If I'm not mistaken, Tenet, is that what's called a palindrome?
Yes.
Where it's the same backwards and forwards. And I think that's very appropriate for this movie because of how things happen going forward and how things happen going in reverse.
Exactly.
And obviously, spoiler alerts if you have never seen this movie.
For the last 4 years.
Yeah, for the last 4 years. It's I guess I'm not even really sure how to. I think it's much harder to explain this movie than it is, like an idle conversation or whatever. But I really enjoyed the acting. I thought the acting was great by Robert Patterson, as well as John Washington. Right, that's his name.
John David Washington.
John David Washington.
Call him. I like to throw his middle name in there. Give him a little extra credit.
I think they both did a really great job in this movie. They complimented each other, and even Elizabeth Debicki, she did a great job with her role as well. But really, I think the person who stole the show has to be Robert Patterson.
Me, 100% agreed.
The way his character handles everything, and then what you find out about his character at the end, I think he's the one who really steals the show because of what his character knows and how his character handles everything.
I 100% agree. And so you talked about the palindrome and the fact that forward and backwards being the same. And that is really the complication of this movie that I was not trying to oversimplify by saying it is simple, enjoyable movie. But at the same time, it is. Now consider that time travel is a possibility. What are the things that are most intricate or involved in that? And one of the biggest pieces would absolutely be a magnetic field. So with the magnetic field, what are the things that are most impacted? The things that are most impacted are any of the actual elements on the periodic table of the elements, starting with the heaviest to the lightest. So starting with metals all the way to air. And this movie did a phenomenal job really explaining, and I think that the original version did a better job, honestly, explaining the impact that it would have on materials, including a bullet or a gun or metals, all the way down to you're traveling through time. And now there is this impact with air where you have to take air with you to be less impacted. I thought it was great. I loved it. From my scientific mind point, my state, this movie was brilliant because, and this is not to take away from it, but when I say it was simple, every minute of this movie made sense from a physics standpoint to me. And so few movies, actually no other movie that's ever talked about time travel has made it so simple for me that I could just like, I don't have to think about the bullshit that's going wrong. This one I'm like, agreed. Yeah, here's a problem. Yeah, oh, agreed. Medals first. Everything was brilliant. Awesome job, Chris Nolan. And I agree with you though. Robert Pattinson, God damn it, stole the show. And the orange ribbon bungee, whatever you want to call it at the end, and also not at the end. I loved it. I absolutely love this movie. I actually like the original version better though.
Yeah, there's one thing that bothers me with this whole movie. And it's such a dumb thing. But it's
not going to be dumb.
But
it'll probably be scientific and physics.
But it totally bothers me 100%. And that is, at the very beginning of the movie, they're in Ukraine, and David John Washington, or John David Washington, sorry.
Dude, you don't have to correct yourself. I know you.
Well, I was gonna say his name, but his character's name in the listings is protagonist. So protagonist, which that's not really his name, but I think
no, it's not. But he is absolutely 100% fighting Pattinson the whole goddamn time, and Pattinson's like, dude, I'm gonna fucking save your life at the end of this shit and the fucking world. Get the fuck over it.
But anyways, the protagonist, or in this case, John David Washington. He's in Ukraine, and he has a small team, and honestly, like, maybe I don't know the whole diversity dynamics of Ukraine, but I'm pretty darn sure there's not a whole lot of black people there, and not a whole lot of black people on the police force. And they're going into this opera house, and he's like, how is it that none of these other police officers are like, hey, what is this black dude doing here?
No, you bring up a valid point in the sense of
if it's in America, sure, or if it's in Europe, sure, but like in Ukraine, it's like a white dominated country. I don't understand. Like, how does no one notice this?
You bring up a great point in the sense of even when we were watching all of the proven false Ukraine videos about the Russian slaughter of their soldiers, where then in the mirrors they're getting back up and everything, everyone's white. Why? Because in the Ukraine, everyone's white.
Yeah. So
why are we supporting that? Honestly, why are we funding a country that's only supporting the white if we're fighting the whites in our own country?
I don't know. But anyways, I just found, I know it's something stupid or whatever, and it shouldn't really bother me, but it's just like, if we're in a white dominated country where probably 95 or 99% of the people are going to be are the cops, how is this not sticking out like a sore thumb? Like, you would think these guys would be like automatically like, yo, who are you, dude? Like, you shouldn't be here.
Clearly there's a few of them at least, but yes, I agree. Now let's move on before we get flagged for being a Biden hater.
So that was like, I don't know why that bothers me so much.
Because it'd be like going to Africa. I'd be like, everyone's white.
Well,
we're not even in South Africa.
It'd be like being in Nigeria where everyone's black, and then you have like the one white guy who's a police officer, and
you're under arrest,
and no one's like paying attention to him as being like a cop with like the other black cops. It's just like it would be like, it's not natural, like, but Oak Express is.
Some natural in there.
It's not natural, but Oak Express is.
I don't believe that either. I think that's false news.
It probably
fake
is.
wood, baby. Fake wood.
Do you remember those commercials?
Yeah.
Sorry, I digressed way too far there.
The whole point is they had to stop after they found all the plastic in their wood.
I was going to make some kind of a statement about Pattinson and something that he said to the protagonist, but I forgot what that was. One point I do wonder is if the protagonist, if he realized in the very beginning of the movie in the opera house, you do see the backpack with the orange bungee thing, and at the end of the movie, you see he realizes that Patterson is the one with the orange bungee thing. But I don't know if he actually put two and two together and realized that it was Patterson's or Neil who he talked to in the opera house. I just wondered, do you think he did know that?
At the very end of the movie, yes, I 100% think that was the point. I actually think Chris Nolan and all of the editors and the people who did it did a great job, because you didn't have to pay a ton of attention at the beginning of the movie to understand that they were highlighting the orange bungee, to understand that at the end when they did, they were making a point. And for me, really, here's the bigger point is that was not the beginning and the end. Those were two dots amongst time that will cycle and change. And I loved it. And what I think was great is everyone wants to ignore the facts right now. Not everyone, but a lot of people want to ignore the facts. Russia initially invaded Ukraine because of biolabs that supposedly didn't exist. Now they invaded, everyone blamed Russia. Then all of a sudden, the reason Russia invaded Ukraine to get rid of the biolabs became public knowledge, but everyone just forgot that that's why Russia did what they did. That was the impetus of what they did, at least as it was originally stated. I'm sure there's other reasons we can all agree. However, the biolabs existed and everyone forgot. Now we go on and on and on. Isn't it also interesting that this movie comes out and it's talking about time travel and other potential risk factors being taken, like a biolab, where we know in the very northern countries, they have tested particle dissection and taking apart a nucleus, if you will, of an atom. And with all of that, why wouldn't Ukraine also be involved in that? So I think what's the bigger point to me is everyone likes to ignore. We have proven, not we, history has proven the movies go out of their way to make a point of something, to make it less of a focus in a certain area, and then all of a sudden it's real and people are, oh well, guess what, aliens do exist, no big deal, people. And that's it. And so with that was the only piece. I enjoyed the movie. I hope you guys also enjoyed it or will enjoy it. Realize that this is a great example of where they can take a theory, time travel, and bring physics into play brilliantly.
Yeah, so now I remember what I was going to say about Patterson's character, Neil, is that he mentions to the protagonist that about the grandfather paradox and basically that it's not so much that you can go back and change something, right? Like if you go back and kill your grandfather, do you still exist? So it's not like so much that when you go back in time, you will change the future. What happens, and I think this gets talked about a little bit in Marvel and also in the DC. I think it was the Flash movie or whatever. But it's more of it's like a diversion, or maybe going into a parallel universe or a parallel world where it's just a new dot and a new line that kind of exists from that point going forward. Because he makes a statement like, if it's happened, it's happened, and don't lose sleep over that. I gotta say I didn't make the correct quote, but he says something similar to like that. Something similar to that. It's like,
if it's in your past, it's in your past.
Yeah, basically. And then near the end of the movie, the protagonist asks him about everything. Like if you can't really, if it's in your past and it stays in your past, can we still change things in the future? And he asks what did we call this? And then Patterson's like, it's just reality. He's like, it's my reality, or I call it my reality, because Patterson's character is at the point in his life where he's been working in this field, I guess, for so long.
We don't know. We don't know how long.
Yeah, we don't know how long. Obviously, it's been a while, because he said that there's an extensive history between him and the protagonist, and that him and the protagonist are the ones who came up with Tenet. It's their rules that they're playing by. So, I think it's just interesting how his character throughout the whole movie knows everything that's going on and never says anything to the protagonist about what's happening because and this is true. If he were to tell him, then the protagonist might do something different, which then could alter that line. But in the same sense, by him even knowing all that stuff, couldn't he have changed the line of how things work as well?
I think he has realized Robert Pattinson, 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 has realized his character, has realized that changing things doesn't make them better. Necessarily in the way you think. You can change things if you are the only one involved, but you involve other people, all of a sudden you've created another ripple.
It's definitely a thought-provoking movie.
Yes.
Enjoyable, if you like intellectual movies.
Agreed.
I don't really have anything else to share on this.
That was it. Next week's Smarter Challenge.
I didn't put together a smart challenge. I guess.
I've got one if you want me to throw out another one.
Sure.
All right. Next week's Smarter Challenge. Is it more important? And there are different stages, but we're going to talk about a basic male. Is it more important for a basic male to seek physical strength or mental strength, and which one will impact them greater in the long run?
Okay.
So you're talking about, you take a male, any male. Could be an 18-year-old boy, 30-year-old man, 40-year-old man, 50-year-old man, someone who is average or broken. Where should they focus their purpose? Should they go after physical strength first or mental strength?
All right, that sounds good. We'll do that as next week's Smarter Challenge. Sorry, I don't know why I was unprepared for that. I knew it was my week, and I totally spaced it out.
All good, man.
I think part of it was like I didn't want to do another movie per se, but I didn't have anything else in my back pocket.
I've got tons of them, so I only got 2 back pockets, but got like 10 in each of them.
All right, so there you go. That's our next week's challenge. Once again, for all of you who did hang around with us this evening, thank you very much. We appreciate all the viewers on YouTube and Rumble. We greatly appreciate all of you, as well as the many listeners on the many various different podcast platforms. We thank all of you listeners as well. Please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast if you like what we're doing. And definitely leave some comments. And with that, we'll have Jesse close us out.
All right. Remember, life is great. That doesn't mean it's always going to be easy. It shouldn't be, actually. You should have to fight for those victories, but that makes those victories all that much more impactful. Do not drink and drive. Remember, drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. And man, without further ado, we're going to wrap this episode up. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Let us know what we could be doing better for you. We would actually genuinely appreciate it. And we have always taken feedback, whether heartfelt or not. We've always taken that feedback. So until next week, we've got Scotchman. Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.